Namaskar and good morning, everybody. So, in the morning, we have customarily here in the Vedanta Society. So, these two are open. You need to keep these two open? We can close it, I think, yeah. Because you're getting a heat from there and sound also. Yes. Is there a ventilation problem? Ventilation problem?
Yeah, actually for ventilation.
Or you could. We have a smaller number of people. Sure. So customarily, we have the reading of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which is the translation of the Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita. The original was in Bengali, is in Bengali. Master Mahashai, who is referred to, he used to fade into the background, so he would just call himself M. And he kept a diary of the conversations. He would listen very carefully to what Sri Ramakrishna said, what the others said. He would watch everything carefully. And every day in the night, he would go back and meditate upon it and write it down, the diary. So later on, from that diary, he reconstructed this, what is now called the Gospel of the Kathamrita. And then there are multiple English translations. M himself did a partial English translation. But later on, just before the Second World War, in the early years of the Second World War in New York, Swami Nikhilanandaji was there. And he translated the entire Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, the Kathamrita, into English. And this is the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. President Roosevelt's daughter was a senior devotee there at the New York Vedanta Society. And she did most of the editing, actually. So it's a very beautiful translation. Now, I found the copy here, this book, and I found it marked. I think Swami Atmarupanji was reading here. That's why I'm going to read exactly where the marking is. This is on Wednesday, December 19, 1883. And in this book, it's page 349. 349. But depending on your edition, you might have a different edition. Some of you I see have the New York edition. So it might be 349. 350 in some books. Okay, I'll start from 349, when the beginning of the section. Wednesday, December 19, 1883. Wednesday, December 19, 1883. So what I'll do is, I'll read for a while, and then I'll say a few things, and then we'll open it up to questions, discussions. In New York, what I do is I don't regard it as a class where I'm giving talks, and, more like a group sitting together and discussing things. One of the reasons I became a monk, I remember my earliest memories of Sri Ramakrishna, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. My grandfather in Cuttack, when he used to have this Patachakra in their house in Nimchori, and all the grandchildren, grandsons, granddaughters, if we were in town in Cuttack, we were all expected to sit and attend, sit quietly and listen. So my grandfather would read out, and my grandmother would sing devotional songs, and the sons and daughters and sons-in-law, daughters-in-law, and the grandchildren would sit quietly, and their neighbors, many people would come. So I have a very clear memory of that. So we will open it up. It will be informal. Afterwards, we'll open it up for discussions, comments, questions. Also, I was in the Vedanta Society in Hollywood. And there, Christopher Isherwood, who wrote the beautiful book, Sri Ramakrishna and His Disciples, he was a devotee there. And there are descriptions how this class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna was actually a private class. That means all other talks, Vedanta, philosophy, they were all open to everybody. But the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna was open only to the members of the Vedanta Society. It was a more closed group. And Christopher Isher would read out from this Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And Swami Prabhavanandaji, who was the founder of the Vedanta Society of Southern California, he would sit and he would explain. Now, the unique thing was he had met many of the characters who are here, because he was a disciple of Swami Brahmananda. And so he had seen so many of these people here. So those classes were also unique and they were exclusive. All right. Let me start with the beautiful Pranam Mantra. This is from the Bhagavatam, Gopi Gita. Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibhiritam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhuvi Grinanti Bhurida Janaha. O Lord, your nectar-like words are praised by the wise and full of auspiciousness. They destroy the curse of evil, bring good to those who hear them, and bring new life to those who are scorched by the ills of worldly existence. Magnanimous are they who spread your message. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. We bow in adoration to Sri Ramakrishna, who is free of stain, eternal, infinite, the worshipful Supreme Lord, who took human birth out of compassion for all. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Chapter 17, M at Dakshineshwar, Part 1, page 349, Wednesday, December 19, 1883. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to M near the Bale tree at Dakshineshwar. This tree, under which the master had practiced the most austere sadhana, stood in the northern end of the temple garden. Farther north ran a high wall, and just outside was the government magazine. West of the Bale tree was a row of tall pines that rustled in the wind. Below the trees flowed the Ganges, and to the south could be seen the sacred grove of the Panchavati. The dense trees and underbrush hid the temples. No noise of the outside world reached the Bale tree. Master, to M. But one cannot realize God without renouncing lust and gold. M. Why? Did not Vashishta say to Rama, O Rama, you may renounce the world if the world is outside God? Master, smiling. He said that to Rama so that Rama might destroy Ravana. Rama accepted the life of a householder and married to fulfill that mission. M stood there like a log, stunned and speechless. Sri Ramakrishna went to the Panchavati on his way back to his room. M accompanied him. It was then about 10 o'clock. M. Sir, is there no spiritual discipline leading to the realization of the impersonal God? Master, yes, there is. But the path is extremely difficult. After intense austerities, the rishis of olden times realized God as their innermost consciousness and experienced the real nature of Brahman. But how hard they had to work. They went out of their dwellings in the early morning and all day practiced austerities and meditation. Returning home at nightfall, they took a light supper of fruit and roots. But an aspirant cannot succeed in this form of spiritual discipline if his mind is stained with worldliness, even in the slightest degree. The mind must totally withdraw from all objects of form, taste, smell, touch, and sound. Only thus does it become pure. The pure mind is the same as the pure Atman. But such a mind must altogether be altogether free from lust and gold. When it becomes pure, one has another experience. One realizes God alone is the doer and I am his instrument. One does not feel oneself to be absolutely necessary to others, either in their misery or in their happiness. Once a wicked man beat into unconsciousness a monk who lived in a monastery. On regaining consciousness, he was asked by his friends, "Who is feeding you milk? Who is feeding you milk?" The monk said, "He who beat me is now feeding me." M. Yes, sir, I know that story. Master. It is not enough to know it. One must assimilate its meaning. It is the thought of worldly objects that prevents the mind from going into samadhi. One becomes established in samadhi when one is completely rid of worldliness. It is possible for me to give up the body in samadhi, but I have a slight desire to enjoy the love of God and the company of his devotees. Therefore, I pay a little attention to my body. There is another kind of samadhi called unmana samadhi. One attains it by suddenly gathering the dispersed mind. You understand what that is, don't you? M. Yes, sir. Master. Yes. It is the sudden withdrawal of the dispersed mind to the ideal. But that samadhi does not last long. Worldly thoughts intrude and destroy it. The yogi slips down from his yoga. At Kamarpukur, I have seen the mongoose living in its hole up in the wall. It feels snug there. Sometimes people tie a brick to its tail, then the pull of the brick makes it come out of its hole. Every time the mongoose tries to be comfortable inside the hole, it has to come out because of the pull of the brick. Such is the effect of brooding on worldly objects that it makes the yogi stray from the path of yoga. Worldly people may now and then experience samadhi. The lotus blooms, no doubt, when the sun is up, but its petals close up again when the sun is covered by a cloud. Worldly thought is that cloud. M. Isn't it possible to develop both jnana and bhakti by the practice of spiritual discipline? Master. Through the path of bhakti, a man may attain them both. If it is necessary, God gives him the knowledge of Brahman, but a highly qualified aspirant may develop both jnana and bhakti at the same time. Such is the case with the Ishvara Kotis, Chaitanya, for example. But the case of ordinary devotees is different. There are 5 kinds of light: the light of a lamp, the light of various kinds of fire, the light of the moon, the light of the sun, and lastly, the combined light of the sun and the moon. Bhakti is the light of the moon, and jnana is the light of the sun. Sometimes it is seen that the sun has hardly set when the moon rises in the sky. In an incarnation of God, one sees at the same time the sun of knowledge and the moon of love. Can everyone, by the mere wish, develop knowledge and love at the same time? It depends on the person. One bamboo is more hollow than another. Is it possible for all to comprehend the nature of God? Can a one-seer pot hold 5 seers of milk? But what about the grace of God? Through His grace, a camel can pass through the eye of a needle. Master. But is it possible to obtain God's grace just like that? A beggar may get a penny if he asks for it. But if he suppose he asks you right off for his train fare, how about that? M stood silent. The master too remained silent. Suddenly he said, "Yes, it is true. Through the grace of God, some may get both jnana and bhakti." M saluted the master and went back to the bale tree. All right, that's more than enough to be going on with. So, Sri Ramakrishna says to M, just before that, you see what a beautiful description of the trees and the rustling sound of the wind in the pine trees and the Ganga flowing by, the temples at the distance, and he's standing in front of Sri Ramakrishna and talking. Sri Ramakrishna says, but one cannot realize God without renouncing lust and gold. Now, here in this dialogue, you can see Sri Ramakrishna is being quite strict throughout. uncompromising. What is going on here in the gospel in Kathamrita is often the subtext, something is going on underneath it. Often you will find Sri Ramakrishna says, of course, everybody can realize God. People come and say, do you have to renounce everything and become monks to realize God? And Sri Ramakrishna says, no. The moon, Uncle Moon is everybody's uncle. Chanda Mama, Shavaikar Mama. So you can stay at home and you're married and you have a job and children and family and all, and you can do sadhana and realize God. Then he told a story that Rama, this is from Yoga Vashishta, Rama wanted to give up everything. After learning Vedanta, he wanted to give up everything and become a monk. And Dasharatha was worried. Who will be the king? And you see the tragedy of it. That he wants Rama to be the king, and then finally he exiled Rama away from the kingdom. And Rama did become the king, but by that time Dasharatha had long ago passed away. Anyhow, so he asks Vashishta, please convince the prince to stay and do his duty. You have taught all this Vedanta and everything, now he wants to become a monk and go away. So what will happen to the kingdom? Then Vashishta goes to Ramachandra and says, all right, you may renounce the world. You want to realize God. All right, you may renounce the world and realize God. But Vashishta knows the secret that Ramachandra is none other than an incarnation of Vishnu, avatar. So there's a purpose. So Vashishta says to him, but you want to renounce the world? Convince me first that the world is something other than Brahman. There is God, ultimate reality, and this world is something different from that reality. In that case, you may renounce it. I have no more objection. What does that mean? It means that Rama, you're making a mistake. What you're trying to renounce here is the same reality. It's like this. If somebody says that I have golden ornaments, I'm very attached to the ornaments, necklace, ring, bracelet. Then somebody comes and tells me, but the necklace is not the reality. Gold is the reality. Ring is not the reality. Gold is the reality. Bracelet is not, the bangle is not the reality. Gold is the reality. And then suppose I misunderstand. I say, oh, the ornaments are not real. Gold is real. Throw away the ornaments. I shall find gold. You're making a big mistake. Because that gold is right there in those ornaments, and equally in all of the ornaments. I was in Fiji many years ago. It was in about 9 years ago. And I was going to give a talk to an audience, mostly Indians in that audience, almost all. And then I was going to talk about Vedanta. So the Swami there at that time, he was a little worried. He said, you give examples, all right, so that they will understand what Vedanta is. I said, yes, I will give examples. Then he became even more worried. And then he came and before I got on the stage, he told me, whispered, Tumi kintu oi shonar example to diyo na. Don't give the example of that goat. Why? So there's what particular example he meant was Sri Ramakrishna's story of the goldsmith, the fraudulent goldsmith. The reason he told me this was the audience was mostly goldsmiths. They are a community of jewelers who had gone and settled down in Fiji. Very prosperous, wealthy community. Now, what is that story? That story is that how people cheat in the name of religion. So man goes to a jewelry shop. And so as he's entering the jewelry shop, he finds somebody sitting outside using a japa mala, doing japa. From inside comes the call, Keshava, Keshava. Keshava means Krishna. And then this man sitting outside the shop said, Gopala, Gopala, Krishna. And from inside came the call, Hari, Hari. And from outside came the reply, Hara, Hara. And this man whose customer who's entering thought, what a wonderful, these shopkeepers are so devout. This is the best place. I will go and buy my jewels from here. But he did not know. It was a code language. From inside, the shopkeeper is asking the person outside, who's a lookout? He's asking, they are all con men. So he's asking from inside, Keshava, Keshava. In Bengali, Keshab, Keshab. Who are they? Who's coming? And give me an evaluation. Is it an innocent, simple person? And from outside, that man replied, Gopala, Gopala. Gopala means a herd of cows. These people are simple as cows, foolish. Then from inside came the question, Hari, Hari. Harana in Sanskrit means to steal. So Hari means Haran Kori. Should I cheat them? Are they good? Can be exploited? And the man outside says, Hara, Hara. Yes, yes, go on, cheat, cheat, cheat. This was the actual conversation going on. They were not at all good people, although they seem to be taking the name of God. In the name of God, a lot of people cheat because often what happens is people who are otherwise very intelligent in the world, highly educated, very accomplished in the field of religion, suddenly turn out to be babies. Suddenly gullible. Sometimes suddenly very enthusiastic about religion, spirituality. And anything and everything they're willing to swallow in the name of religion. That should not be. Common sense should be applied. You have built up a life, an education, you have built up a career, you're trained in science and rational thinking. Apply the same thing here. Rules of good conduct, morality, all those things should be applied. So anyway, that was the story of the fraudulent goldsmiths. The Swami was worried I will tell that example because the audience, they're all, all goldsmiths. So I said, no, I know. I have got common sense. I will not tell that story. So I told them this example of the bangle and the necklace and the ring, and the gold is the common reality behind all of them. After the talk, there was little tea. One gentleman came up and he said, "Arey Swamiji, आप तो हमारा धंधा चौपट कर रहे हैं. You are trying to ruin our business, Swamiji." I said, "How?" He said, "That is our business. In your example, you said it is all the same gold. But we charge for melting the gold down into converting this in the neck and ring into a necklace, and necklace into a bangle. And that's our business." And you were saying these ornaments are nothing but name and form. The reality is gold alone. But it is true. In all those ornaments, it's the same gold. If I throw away the ornaments and I say I will try to find the gold, I'm missing the mark because I have not understood what gold is. There's another similar story. A goldsmith, he told his son, "Son, I need some gold. Go to the vault. Yesterday I showed you there is a vault. Open the vault and get some gold for me for the work I'm going to do." So the boy ran off. Then he came back and said, "Father, there is no gold." He was alarmed. "What do you mean? Last night I showed you that so much gold was there." No, there's no gold." And so the goldsmith got very worried. He went into the house and opened the vault. He said, "Here it is. Why did you say there's no gold?" "Where?" "Here, this necklace, this bangle, this ring." And the boy said, "But this is necklace, bangle, ring. Where is the gold?" So he does not recognize it. That is the problem. We also don't recognize it. See, when all the mystics say, "Here is God all around us," we look, where? I don't see God anywhere. Our Swami Suviranandaji Maharaj, who's the General Secretary of our order, he told a story about Swami Nirvananandaji, who was the Vice President of the Ramakrishna Math and Mission, disciple of, actually he was a sevak for Swami Brahmananda. And Swami Brahmananda, before he passed, he blessed all around him, the last day of his life, and he blessed Nirvanananda. "You have served me diligently. I bless you that you will realize Brahman in this very life." Later, people used to ask, "Have you realized Brahman?" And he said that, "Yes, I have." Now, Swami Suvirananda, who is now our General Secretary, he was a young brahmachari. He's a disciple of Swami Nirvananda, so he told us this story. He was a young brahmachari at that time, many years ago. And he was sitting in the room where Swami Nirvananda was, sitting there in the chair. Very old Swami. At that time, he was Vice President of Ramakrishna Mission. And Swami Nirvananda suddenly said to this young man, "What do you see there?" And Suviranji said, "I told him, there's a bed, cot. Bed. What do you see there?" "Table." "Table. And then under the bed, trunk." In India, we used to have these iron, big, huge suitcases, like made of iron. "Trunk." Trunk, bed, table, trunk. How many years have you been how many years have you become a sadhu? So Viranji said, 3 years. 3 years. You're saying it's bed, table, trunk. He started shouting. And then a senior Swami who was the Gan Maharaj, he was the Sevak for Nirvana, he came running up, thought that Brahmachari may have made some mistake. So what happened, Maharaj? Look at this young man. He says he has been sadhu for 3 years and he cannot see Sarvapriyananda, Sri Ramakrishna pervading everything. He can't see Sri Ramakrishna here. He's saying it's a bed. He's saying it's a table. He's saying it's a trunk. And of course, the attendant Swami knew the ways of Nirvanandaji, so he said to calm him down, "No, Maharaj, it'll taking a little bit of time. He will see God everywhere soon. Don't worry. Have. And the Nirvanandaji was very worried. 3 years he has been a sadhu. He has not seen God everywhere. So they were that impatient to see God in everything. Swami Vivekananda says, "He who runs away to meditate and die in a Himalayan cave has missed the way. He who plunges headlong into the vanities of the world has missed the way." If you run away from the world, you have missed the way. If you plunge into the world, you have missed the way. Then what is the way? There are only two alternatives. Then Swamiji says, Swami Vivekananda, he says, the way is to divinize life, is to deify life, to see God in everything and everyone you are with, all around you, here and there. Sri Ramakrishna also used to say, the one who sees it here will see it there. One who does not see it here will not see it there also. So this is what Vashishta says to Ramachandra. Oh Rama, you may renounce the world. If you want to renounce the world, all right, renounce. But can you show me that the world is other than God? It's outside God. There's no God here. Throw away the gold ornament, the ornaments. Then try to find gold. You will not, because you have not recognized gold. If you recognize what is gold, if you recognize what is God, then you will find it everywhere. Then you will not say, I have to renounce the world. Another beautiful story from the Yoga Vashishta Ramayana, I remember this. The two stages of enlightenment. There was a queen and a king. The queen was enlightened, the Brahmagyani. After some days, some years of happily married royal life, like what? Not like Prince Harry and Meghan, not like that. Happily married royal life. The king asked the queen. So in our Santa Barbara ashram in Southern California, so Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they live nearby. So I asked them, oh, I see. So there's celebrities. Don't people bother them? And the Mataji was there. Yes, I often see Harry walking the dogs, but no, people don't bother them there. After a few years of happily married life, the king asked the queen one day, my dear, I have a question. What is the question? In the midst of your busy schedule, first lady, busy schedule, how are you so calm, so relaxed, always smiling and serene and calm? How is it possible? Then she said, I was waiting for you to ask this question. Well, I'll tell you. Actually, we are not who we think we are, and not the body, not the mind. We are the witness of the mind, the ever pure, ever calm awareness, pure consciousness. And the Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, that teaching, not the body, not the mind. She taught that. The king said, oh, such a great secret, such a wonderful thing. I did not know this. I must realize it. So I'm taking study leave, sabbatical. You, my dear, you run the kingdom. I'm going to the forest. I will meditate. Of course, there also he has a palace, of course. So there he will sit in the palace and meditate there and realize that he is Brahman, that I'm the witness consciousness, ever pure, ever calm Atman, and get that peace which his wife, the queen, already has. So he goes away. And yes. And then he meditates there. After some few months, he becomes enlightened. I am the witness consciousness. Now I realize I am not body, not mind. This world is like a drishya, is an appearance. I am awareness. All changes, all problems, all in the world, they are all appearing, but I am completely at peace. Good. He remained immersed in samadhi, in deep meditation. Then he came back to the kingdom and he said, "My dear, thank you very much. You have taught me this great secret. Now I have attained peace. But I have one more doubt." Then the queen said, "What doubt? You know this. Long before me, you knew this and you became enlightened. And so you have got this great joy and peace in the Atman. Why don't you want to remain in the forest and immersed in meditation? But you're leading a very ordinary life. Ordinary life means life of the queen. But ordinary queen's life, the first lady, all the work you are doing, I don't see that you are remaining immersed in samadhi. I always want to remain immersed in this." See, like Naren asked Sri Ramakrishna, after attaining Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Sri Ramakrishna asked, "Now what else do you want?" "I want to remain in that. Once in a while I'll come out and take a snack and go back into Nirvikalpa Samadhi." Of course, Sri Ramakrishna scolded him. He said, "Shame on you. I thought you will be like a great banyan tree under whose shade millions of people who are scorched by the sufferings of worldliness, they will come and find shade under you. And here you are thinking only about your mukti." Um, so the king asked the same question to the queen. "Why don't you want to remain immersed in the bliss of samadhi?" "I want to remain immersed in the bliss of samadhi." "But you are engaged in a mundane life, day-to-day life." The queen said, "I was waiting for you to ask this question. There's another step, a deeper secret." And then she shows that what you found in samadhi, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, pure consciousness, bliss, that same reality is in here. All these people, this palace, this administration, these people, the problems in the world, they are all appearances of that same light. It's the same screen on which this movie is playing. You may withdraw from all of it. You may melt down all the ornaments into a shapeless mass of gold. Or you may let the ornaments remain as ornaments. Let the necklace remain as a necklace. Let the ring remain as a ring. Let the bangle remain as a bangle. But you know it is the same gold everywhere. Let the world remain as it is instead of trying to disappear into samadhi. You engage with the world, whether with eyes open or with eyes closed, same reality. So that's a deeper realization. Sri Ramakrishna calls it Vijnana. After realizing Brahman, you see whatever you left behind, neti neti. You look back, you see that is also nothing other than the same Brahman. Now, that is the story Sri Ramakrishna told M. You don't have to give up your house, your children, and all of that, and your job. You remain here. Same Brahman everywhere. And that story was told by, this is the story of Vasishtha telling Ramchandra, "You want to give up the kingdom? Why? It's like throwing away the ornaments. It is same gold is in the ornaments, same God, same Brahman is in everything in the kingdom." Now, Sri Ramakrishna is saying everything has to be renounced here. And M is saying, "But story, you told me that story." He's giving Sri Ramakrishna's story back to him. Vasishtha told Rama not to renounce. Now you're telling me to renounce? Now Sri Ramakrishna is modifying that story. He's adding footnote. Master, Sri Ramakrishna understands what is going on underneath. So he smiles. He said, Vasishtha said that to Rama so that Rama may fulfill his destiny, that he will remain as the prince of Ayodhya, will go and fight with Ravana. Sita will be abducted, then he will go to rescue Sita and fight with Ravana and destroy Ravana. That is the whole mission of the avatar of Ramchandra. And that's why Vasishtha told him. Which means actually renunciation of the world is necessary. That's why. So this is the background. That's why you see the next, otherwise this next sentence is difficult to understand. M stood there like a log, stunned and speechless. What is there to remain stunned and speechless? Because Sri Ramakrishna is stressing that no. Not world and God together. God and God alone. And world, yes, but only by seeing God in everything. Because one may become complacent. Well, Sri Ramakrishna has given permission. I may do 50% of this and 50% of that, and balance. And Swami Ashokanji says, little nectar in one hand, little poison in the other hand. One sip of this and one sip of that. No. Yes, you can remain in samsara and that is perfectly all right. But the point is, One must renounce everything internally. And I'm holding on to God and God alone. Even in samsara also, I'm holding on to God alone. To realize God, one must internally become, the identity should be, I am a sadhaka. I am seeking God. I want God realization and nothing short of God realization. I don't want 50% God realization, 50% samsara. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. Whether you are a monk or a householder, internal renunciation is necessary for both. Monk, internal and external. Householder, internal. Externally, one is in the middle of the world. All right. That's why M stood there stunned and speechless. So day has come 10 o'clock and they have gone back into the room. Now M asked the next question. I want to realize Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. I know you are a devotee of Ma Kali, all that is fine, but M was very inclined to Advaita Vedanta. So isn't there any way of realizing? You keep telling me about bhakti. Notice, even in the Yoga Vashishta story, Vashishta and Ramachandra, the discussion is about realizing Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. What we were discussing yesterday, 13th chapter in there in the Durga Bari. So M says, what about that? I want to have that realization. And Sri Ramakrishna says it's very difficult. And why is it difficult? Notice, he says how much austerity they had to perform. They went out of their dwellings from morning till night. The rishis performed austerities and meditation. He says they ate a little supper of fruit and roots. That means very austere life. Why? What were they doing? What is exactly the sadhana they were doing, and why is it so difficult, and how is it connected to Advaita Vedanta? He explains. You see, you cannot succeed in this if the mind is stained with worldliness, even in the slightest degree. The mind must withdraw totally from its objects of form, taste, smell, touch, and sound. Only thus does it become pure. See, the same consciousness, you are Brahman, you are consciousness, but through the medium of the mind, it flows out through thoughts. Even thoughts are not problematic, but the thoughts again flow out through the 5 doors of the 5 senses and contact the world, people, and objects, and activities, and problems, and temptations, and anxieties. And then Brahman is hidden. You are that, but it's hidden now. Hidden by what? By the thoughts of the mind, by the sense perceptions, and by the world. So this is shining so brightly that we don't realize what's behind it all. That Brahman is there, God is there all the time. And it's our own reality. But then what do you have to do? To empty the mind of worldliness. So this emptying the mind of worldliness, he says, all this austerity, complete simplified life and turning inwards in meditation. Then he says, pure mind is the same as pure Atman. So the mind, pure mind means the mind withdrawn from, the senses withdrawn from the world, the mind withdrawn from the senses, and then the mind stilled. That is pure mind. Nirvishaya mana. Mind without Vishaya. Pure mind is the same as pure Atman. But Nirvishaya mana is equal to Samadhi. Mind will become absorbed in Samadhi. But such a mind must be altogether free from lust and gold. Only when it becomes pure, then one has the experience of God. God alone is the doer. This body, mind, even this individuality is the instrument. This becomes clear. Then he tells the story of that monk who was beaten and then he recovers consciousness. Somebody is feeding him milk. So they try to see that he has concussion or not. Do you recognize who is feeding you milk? Yes, the one who beat me is feeding, the same one who's feeding me milk. So they'll think that he surely has concussion. No, he's become enlightened. So he knows that it is the same reality everywhere. And M says, yes, I know it. I heard the story. And see, again, Sri Ramakrishna corrects. Not enough to know it. See, your question is, I want to realize I am Brahman. And here is a serious mistake. See, the obstacle is, I read the book, I do the analysis, and I understand it, and I feel I have known it. Then the sign that such a problem has come is people will ask, I have understood everything, Swamiji, then what do I do next? What do I do next means you have not understood it yet. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says. It's not enough to know it. One must assimilate its meaning. Another place Sri Ramakrishna says, Kothagulo to bhalo, dharana hawa chai. The words in Vedanta are good. The discussion was about Advaita Vedanta. Words are good. They're true. But one must assimilate it. It is not for nothing that so many sadhakas do so much tapasya. If there were such a straight cut, we say shortcut, direct path. You are Brahman, here, realize it. If it was so easy, then were they fools that they did so much tapasya? It is necessary. It is necessary in order to be stabilized in that. But even before becoming stabilized, one may get a glimpse. A glimpse is possible. Not only glimpse, even samadhi is possible long before that. Sri Ramakrishna says, there is another kind of samadhi called unmana samadhi. One attains it by suddenly gathering the dispersed mind. Here we are. And there is a process. One can guide others to it. I did a private retreat, and we did an exercise, Vedanta class, slowly, and then after that, we did a meditation exercise. So at least some of them. We are ordinary people. If an extraordinary teacher, an extraordinary student leads to samadhi and realization. But at our level, some people, one person said, Swamiji, did you hypnotize us? What happened at that time? We were all stunned into silence. It can happen. But that is not enough. That is not enough. If the teacher is very powerful and the students are prepared, then one can have a direct samadhi, a glimpse of the infinite. Swami Vivekananda in Belur Mutt, once he was sitting under a bale tree. That tree is the mango tree. That tree is still there. And talking to the disciples, gathered people who had come to visit him. Early morning. And the talk about God realization came. Swami Vivekananda is impatient. You want to realize God? Now. Do it now. Be realized. You want to realize Brahman? See, here is Brahman. Here. Just like showing the gold ornaments and saying, look, here is gold. The moment he said, look, here is Brahman. See Brahman. And the people around him, their minds became absorbed. The description is a great stillness descended on the courtyard. And to different degrees, Swami Premananda, Baburam Maharaj, who was the manager of the Belur Mutt, disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, he used to do the morning worship of Sri Ramakrishna. He had come down, puja thali, this plate of chandan, fruits, flowers and all. After doing the worship, he would go to the Ganga and do worship of Ganga there. So he was coming down, puja thali in his hands and walking down. He was not part of the conversation. He just overheard Swami Vivekananda say to all the gathered people there in the courtyard, you want to see Brahman? Here is Brahman. Here is the ultimate reality. See Brahman. Here. And Swami Premananda went into samadhi. He just stood. The description is so amazing. He stood there like a picture. 1 foot raised to take the next step, frozen. With the puja thali in his hand. Absolutely. His face glowing and eyes inward, samadhi. And the whole scene remained like that for a few minutes. Swami Vivekananda noticed. And then he said, Baburam Dai Bacha. We go. And then Swami Premananda, who was frozen, 1 foot in front of the other, he started walking again. If such a thing can happen, Sri Ramakrishna says, Unmana Samadhi. Instantly one can disappear into samadhi. And then, notice these things. He says to M, you understand what that is, don't you? Because M already has that experience. M says, yes, sir, I understand. But then he says, it is not enough. It is a sudden withdrawal of the dispersed mind to the idea. And that samadhi does not last long. Why does it not last long? Because deep samskaras, worldly samskaras are there in the mind, so they force the mind out, again into the world. He gives the example of the mongoose he had seen in his village in Kamarpukur. So mongoose remains in the hole and very snug and comfortable. But some naughty boys had tied it. Mongoose has a long bushy tail. So the naughty boys had tied a brick to its tail. And the mongoose would fall out of the hole. Sometimes jump into and try to stay in the hole, but the weight would pull him down. Similarly, we may, with an effort, be absorbed. A few of us, with the grace of God, even in an instant samadhi we can, by the grace of the Guru. Or if not that much, at least a deep silence, which is extraordinary, we can be absorbed. It can be done almost for everybody. But it's not enough. We will come back again out of it. And but it's not bad also. It's a wonderful thing. It gives you a glimpse of the truth. And imagine, even deeper, even higher than that is possible. And someone who is established in that, all the time they are in that state, or even beyond, which we don't understand. What an amazing life it will be. What a blessing it will be for that person and for everybody else around, to lift the mind into such peace, joy, love, um, give peace to everybody. So let me stop here. And if you have questions, comments, observations, how do we do this? Sri Ramakrishna, huh? No, you can just ask it. It's small group. So Sri Ramakrishna says that you can do it by jnana and bhakti, but he says by bhakti one can attain this also. All this realization that I am Brahman, I am pure consciousness, that one can attain through bhakti. How? Through Vedanta one understands, I am not the body, not the mind, I am the witness consciousness. I try to understand and locate it, and I am that. I realize. Fine. But how through bhakti? I am devoted to Sri Ramakrishna or to Krishna, Rama, in whatever way, I am devoted to God. How will that lead to this realization? He says, by the grace of God, one can get this realization. Sri Ramakrishna himself says to Totapuri, his Vedanta guru, Ved Vedante ki ache ma dekhi diyeche. Mother, Divine Mother, Kali, has shown me what is there in the Vedantic truth. It can be done. If one is deeply devoted to God, by the grace of God, one may, although one is not trying to get Brahmajnana, one can get Brahmajnana. It is possible. I know that it has been done. There are cases. All right, we'll stop there. Yes, so complete surrender is not easy. Sri Ramakrishna tells the story of the bird which was flying around and sat on the mast of a ship, sailing ship. And then the ship sailed out into the Bay of Bengal. You say Kalapani. Then the bird suddenly realized he sees water everywhere and got anxious. Where is the land? And it flew from the mast, it flew to the east, no land. It came back, then again flew to the west, no land. North, south, no land. Then finally decided to sit on the mast. That's the only place, mast of the ship. And the ship took it to land. After some time, it came to the land. So don't fly here and there. Stay on the ship. Stay on the mast of the ship. What is that? Remain steady in the Ishta Devata form and mantra. That ship will take you to realization. That is one way. And that will lead to surrender. And that's the idea of surrender. That is surrendering to Ishta Devata. That will stay there. But it's not easy to stay there. In Swami Turiyananda, there's one story in Kashi. A young sadhu came to Swami Turiyananda. After reading this story, he was very impressed. And this young monk told Swami Turiyananda, Maharaj, I have understood. I will not fly anywhere here and there. I will sit on the mast. I will not fly here and there. Then Swami Turiyananda said, but when did you fly? In Bengali, he said, Udlei ba kabe tumi? You have not tried anything yet. You have to try. You have to try japa, bhakti, dhyana, Vedanta inquiry, service of the poor, all of that. All of it is good. But none of it will directly lead to God realization. Only God's grace leads to God realization. Later on, Sri Ramakrishna says, is God's grace so cheap? You have to try. Then only God's grace will come. But little bit one can get. As soon as possible, at least one should try to get a little bit. The beggar asks for 2 pennies. The lady of the house may throw to the beggar. But directly, if the beggar says, I will come and you give me the whole train fare. That is not so easy. So what does it mean? A little glimpse of the infinite. That the Divine Mother is ready to give you. But full bhakti, full Brahmajnana, I am Brahman, that realization, and especially devotion. Mukti dite kator noi, bhakti dite kator hoi. There is a song. I can give you freedom, But devotion is the most precious jewel, so that takes time. Yes.
I received one message. Nowadays, you get so many messages to WhatsApp.
Don't listen.
No, don't listen. One thing I'm holding to it, and I want to have your opinion on this. জ্ঞানীরা যাকে ব্রহ্ম বলে, যোগীরা তাকে আত্মা বলে, আর ভক্তরা তাকে ভগবান বলে। একই বস্তু, নাম ভেদ মাত্র। যিনি ব্রহ্ম, তিনি আত্মা, তিনি ভগবান। তুমি ঠিক?
Correct. Absolutely. There is one reality. Though the Jnanis call it Brahman, the yogis call it Atma, consciousness within, and the devotees, bhaktas, call it Bhagavan, God. And God in many forms. Shiva, Vishnu, Allah, Father in heaven. It is one reality. There is a reality which is being approached by these different systems in different ways. That
Atma or Paramatma?
same thing. What that Atma and Paramatma are same thing is our theme in the evening classes. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata. In your language, Krishna said to Arjuna, know me to be the knower of the field in all the fields. In your language, Krishna is saying, know me to be the Atma in all the bodies. That is Paramatma. Paramatma and Atma are one reality. That is the teaching of Advaita Vedanta. They are different. Atma and Bhagavan are different in Dvaita Vedanta. In Vishishtadvaita Vedanta, see, Dvaita and Vishishtadvaita have a relationship with God. Sri Ramakrishna says, তুমি কে, আমি কে, আর আমাদের সম্পর্ক কি জেনে নিলেই হবে. Who you are, what I am, and what is our relationship. That if you know that, that's enough. But that's enough means that's all of spirituality. Who am I? Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. Who is God? That Chidananda Rupa with the power of Maya, Ishvara, Bhagavan, Paramatma. What is our relationship? Hanuman summarized nicely. You are the Lord, I am your servant. Dvaita. You are the whole, I am your part. Vishishtadvaita. You and I are the same reality. Advaita. Different level of realize, not even understanding, realization. The level of understanding we can get right now. Just read a few books, attend a few classes, understanding will become clear. But that's not enough. Swami Vivekananda says, many come to an understanding, few realize. But at least that understanding is valuable.
Gita chapter 12, I think it's 3 or 4. It says, "Te papnubanti mameva sarvabhuta hiterata." Vivekananda Bani says, "Vivekan kore jei jon sejna sejishi sejisho." Itu kotha ki ekই hobe?
Yes, more or less. In the Gita 12th chapter, it says that Arjuna asked this question, which is easier? Here also, M is going towards that question. Path of bhakti or path of jnana? Arjuna asked this question. Who is a better yogi or easier path of yoga? And Sri Krishna is very clear. Path of bhakti is easier. Klesho adhikastarastesham abhyakta sakta chetasam abhyakta hi gati dukkham dehavad bhiravapyate. Krishna says, those who pursue the path of Advaita Vedanta, of jnana, their path is more difficult. Exactly, almost literally the same words Sri Ramakrishna is saying here. Why? Sri Krishna gives a very precise answer there. Avyakta hi gati dukkham dehavad bhiravapyate. For those who are very attached to the body. Dehavat means those who are embodied. But everybody is embodied. Even Vivekananda, Mahasarada, Sri Ramakrishna are also embodied. He's there. And here also, we are embodied. But embodied does not mean identified with the body. I feel very much that this body is I and I am this body. This is attachment with the body. Those who are deeply attached to the body. And once I'm attached to the body and the mind, then I'm attached to the world also. This body is a part of the world. But for such people, Advaita Vedanta is difficult. Not only to, let alone practice, even to understand is difficult. But then Krishna says, those who go by the path of Jnana, Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, they will also realize the same thing. And then he gives one more addition clause, Sarvabhuta hite ratha. They all will realize me engaged ever in the welfare of all beings. You see Brahman everywhere. If you see Brahman everywhere, what will you feel? The worship I'm doing here, my worship should be extended to everybody. How is my worship extended to everybody? Medicine for the sick, education for the illiterate, help for the poor, and so on. Sarvabhuta hiterata, engaged in the welfare of all beings. You don't even have to go out looking for who is poor, who is sick, who is illiterate. All around us, we find in our very actions, we can help people. Even a smile can help other people. Even two words, kind words can help other people. Even a little bit of forbearance on my part can help other people. Sarvabhuta hiterata. One funny thing I saw in the Himalayas, one monk whose sadhana was continuously looking at. He would sit near the Ganga, and all he did throughout the day was look at the Ganga in Himalayas. He would sit, and the little raised kutia was there. He would sit. If you go, he will offer you a cup of tea. Come sit. But mostly he will be looking like this. He will not look at you also. Sometimes he will look, but mostly. And out of the day, 14 to 16 hours, workaholic, looking at the Ganga. That is his work. But the slogan in front of his hut says, Sarvabhuta hiterata, engaged in the welfare of all beings. He is not even looking at all beings. How he is well engaged in the welfare of all beings. Anyway. Yes. Hmm. Hmm. Christianity not single, Trinity. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Trinity. But three in one. Three in one. I remember when we were kids, the latest music systems used to be called three in one. There was cassette player and radio and something else was there. Disc. Those used to come. Those were latest technology at that in those days. Now people will not even understand what it means. I mean, mobile phone is all in all in one. So again, in Islam, Allah, God, but Prophet Muhammad is the Prophet of Allah. And not only that, there are many prophets before Prophet Muhammad, none after that. So limited edition, but only. But still, many prophets are there. Jesus Christ is a prophet in Christianity, in Islam. Moses is a prophet. Prophets are many. God is one. In Hinduism also, God is one. Ekameva dvitiyam. But the understanding is that the same God can be experienced in many different ways, not different gods. The way it is given in our Puranas, somebody said in Hinduism, it looks like a cosmic soap opera up there. There's Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Durga, whole family is there. Shiva and son, daughter, it's all there. Pets. There's a mouse, and then there is the lion, and there's the Garuda, and all are there. So the idea is that one reality can appear as many, and that same reality can be experienced in many different ways. So what Hinduism did was, over centuries and millennia, evolve various ways of experiencing the same reality. As he just said, Bhagavan, Atma, Brahma. And Bhagavan also, not in one way. Bhagavan also as Devi. Yesterday we were in Durga body, as Durga, as Kali, Shodashi, Bhuvaneshwari, Lakshmi, Saraswati. And God also as Vishnu, as Shiva, and Vishnu also in so many forms. And Shiva also in so many forms. As Surya, as Ganapati, as Kartikeya, Subramanya. Many, many, many forms. Who are they? Not even they. Is one reality. Now, gender, they means one. Yes. Once in a Harvard class, I saw this professor. He's referring to they in the singular. I thought, Harvard professor making a grammatical mistake. What is this? In the slide, he meant one person. Then I realized, no, this is the new pronoun, use of the pronouns. So all they in Hinduism, they all refer to one reality. But the same reality can be experienced in so many ways, in so many names. This is one reason Swami Vivekananda said that in Hinduism, he noticed after coming to the West, in the West, religion was strictly controlled. West and Middle East. Society in the West, society was allowed to develop. That too in the recent past only, last 200, 300 years. Middle East, both are strictly controlled, society and religion. But religion did not develop here. You might say, but religion is so much variety. So many different sects, especially Christian sects, the Protestant sects who came here. But notice, variety is very little actually. Same Bible, same Jesus Christ. They all belong to the same religion. Little tiny differences in doctrines. Different churches have come up. For us, from a distance, they all look alike. All the teachings, they're not very different. Minor differences. Swami Atmarupanji was here. I asked him once, how did you become a monk, a Vedantic monk? So he said he grew up in the deep south in I think South Carolina. So he said there's a Bible Belt and so many churches all around. And he was very interested in religion as a teenager. And he said he noticed that every church is saying that we will go to heaven and all other churches, the members will go to hell. Every little church on a street corner was claiming we have the truth, and every other church across the street, they're all wrong. Then he said, I felt then they're all wrong in that case. How can one little church be right and everybody else be wrong? Then that little church also must be wrong. Then everybody's wrong. Then for some time he lost interest. Once he read this book on Vedanta for the Western world, and he got it in Sweden somewhere. And then he said that there I saw, for the first time I came across this idea that not that they're all wrong, not that one is wrong and one is right and everybody else is wrong. Maybe they are all right. In the fundamental teachings, they're all right. The differences are in the practices and doctrines. So that is the narrowness of religion. Even with so much diversity in religion here, still narrowness is there. I was just thinking why the Protestants fled from Europe and they came to USA. One of the reasons for the Europeans coming to USA, one reason, many other reasons were there. One reason was freedom of religion. Because there was so much persecution of the Protestants by the Catholics by the Protestants in Europe, the religious wars. So they came here, and first thing in the Constitution from the very beginning, complete freedom of religion. You may do whatever you like. Fine. So that's a great thing. But the model they had is the model that the Protestants have, which they rejected. What did they reject? Catholic Church. But the model in their mind was a Catholic Church. So they built little churches all on the pattern of the Catholic Church. And one thing they inherited from the Catholic Church, we are right, everybody else is wrong. So narrowness remained. Variety, plurality, but narrowness remained. I heard the most strange thing. For Hindus, it's a very strange thing. I was in a conference, interfaith group. One American lady, she said, it's a very interesting idea that all religions are true, all paths lead to the same goal. But when I tell my students this, and that's a very conservative Christian group. Not very conservative, just a conservative Christian group. So when I tell my students this, they're all white Christians. Their reaction is strange reaction, which at least I find it bewildering. Their reaction is, there are different paths to God realization. Then God doesn't exist. And what? Then religion is not true. For us, it seems just the opposite. If one is true and everybody else is false, then it doesn't seem very convincing. But if there is an ultimate truth like God, then it is very reasonable that in different ways humanity has found its way to the same reality. I tried to understand why are they saying like this? And the answer was, the psychology is this. If God is true, there must be one true path to God. If you're saying many paths are there, then it's a figment of imagination. So truth must be one. So no, no, no. God must be one. And the truth is one because God is the truth. Your religion is not the ultimate truth. In India, religion was understood as a way, upaya. Which religion is true? It's not a correct question. It's like asking, you're coming to the Vedanta society, somebody uses Waze, somebody uses Google Maps, somebody uses something else. And the multiple paths are suggested. You all came by different paths. If I ask you, which path is true? Say, what a question, Swami. All the paths work. There are wrong paths. Not that everything is, in Hindi we say, sab chalta hai. No, it's not sab chalta hai. If you take anything and everything, you may end up in different ways. But there are many paths which will lead you here. Similarly, there are many ways of living life and practicing which will lead you to God. This is not to say that everything is all right. Sri Ramakrishna is saying everything is all right. No, you see, Sri Ramakrishna is pretty strict. There are things which you do in this world which will not lead you to God, which will take you deeper into worldliness. So Hinduism, Swami Vivekananda saw in India just the opposite. Society was restricted until recently, until say late 19th century. Society was very restricted, casteist, rigid society. And Swami Vivekananda said the two reasons for India's downfall: the neglect of the oppression of the masses and neglect of the women. So this was there in India. The society was strictly restricted. But religion was free. Free in the sense, you could find your own path to God realization. If anybody at any time in India's history I found a great master, and he is showing me this path to God realization, you're free to follow. That's how different sects came up, different groups came up, all throughout India's history till today. That's why there is such a extraordinary development of religion, which you are saying so many gods and goddesses. Basically, that's what it is. In different ways, we can realize God. Vivekananda wanted both freedom of society and freedom of religion. So he was, Sister Nivedita said, he was a meeting point of the East and the West. If you see Vivekananda, extraordinary character, the more you think about him. The other disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, you can see their pictures here. If you look at their lives, they are more like typical Hindu holy men, good sadhus who became enlightened. But Vivekananda is much more than that. Extraordinary. Sister Nivedita says he was the meeting point of the East and the West, past and future. Religion is also changing very fast as the years go on. So that Vivekananda has shown the way. Yes, who had hands up? Somebody else had their hands up. Yes.
I have a question about Sri Ramakrishna said that assimilative knowledge. How do you, what are the practical ways to do it?
Yes, practical, that is important. Practical ways require spiritual practice. So assimilate this knowledge, to put it in brief, basis is ethical life first. One can be good without being spiritual, but one cannot be spiritual without being good. So ethical life first. Honesty, self-control, selfless, unselfishness, this ethical life. Then comes karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and dhyana, meditation. So these are the ones which will purify the mind. Pure mind, he says, realizing Atman is very easy. Vedanta will work. That's why when you come to Advaita Vedanta, you'll see in the very entrance, fourfold qualification is mentioned. Viveka, Vairagya, the sixfold treasures, disciplines, and Mumukshutvam, the discernment between eternal and non-eternal, Viveka, dispassion for the world, which is Sri Ramakrishna is stressing so strongly, both for monks and householders. This renunciation of lust and gold, again and again he's saying. So, Vairagya. Then the six practices, Shama, quietness of mind, Dhamma, quietness of the body, control of the body. Then Uparati, withdrawal from too much engagement with the world. Then Samadhana, focus, settle down. And then Shraddha, a faith, a working faith, that all these teachings, there is something here. Let me pursue it. Let me try to find out. And Mumukshutvam, and the Titiksha is there, a spiritual toughness, fortitude. Many problems will be there in life. Don't you face many problems in earning money and raising a family? So many problems are there. You have to put up with it. Similarly, in spiritual life, far less problems are there in spiritual life, actually. There will be still some challenges. And then mumukshutvam, intense desire for freedom. So those will come, those are the preparations. That if the already bhakti is there, karma yoga has been done, and meditation, focus of mind is there. Those regularly one must practice meditation, regularly one must try to convert one's activities into seva, into karma yoga, and cultivate devotion and dependence on God. This will help us to assimilate. Then one teacher, Advaita Vedanta teacher said, with these fourfold qualifications, if you come to Vedanta and listen to these teachings, these ones, it will lead to enlightenment. Without sufficient amount of preparation, if you come to these teachings and listen to these teachings, at most you will feel I got a nice philosophy, but my life has not changed. I'm not getting any benefit out of it. It's same. The difference is not in the teaching. Difference is not in the text. The difference is in the preparation. Should we wrap it up now? It's 12:15. Anybody else? You had a question. Okay, we'll end with that question.
This is a question I'm struggling with actually. And in fact, from the lecture yesterday, the words that came to my mind when we were discussing the fact that you are not your body. And that is often discussed topic and through the discussions on it. As you mentioned, Sai prayer and also the Panchakosha Viveka.
Yes.
That is the one way to explain how you are not your body. But I said often we're not thinking of the body as us, but we are thinking as the body as ours. So when I have been repeating that phrase in my mind, we don't normally do, I say this is my hand. I never say I am hand. I said this is my body, my head, my everything. So when you phrase it in terms of this possessive quality, where does this discussion lead to?
Right. So the straight answer to that is you are not the body, and the body is not yours. One sadhu in Uttarakhand gave this answer to this question directly. The sharir aapka hai kaise? Kaun kaha? Who has told you that the body is yours? Aapke paas dastaveज hai? Do you have the papers of possession? That, like you pull out your papers, the cops pull you over, not for the car, for the body. Where is the insurance? Where is the license? Nothing. He's joking, but he's serious also. Where does this idea come that I am the body? Let's look deeply at it. Do you have you made this body? It's mine. I made it with my own hands. Have you made this body? No. Not even our parents have made it. Nature made it. It's a natural process, a very complex process of which we are only beginning to understand a little bit, let alone have any control. And I certainly, as a ordinary person, I don't think I have any control over making this body. Even now, when I eat and drink, I only eat and drink. But what happens after that is a very complex and sophisticated process over which I have no control. So I have not made this body. Do you own the materials from which the body is made, the earth and the fire and the water and the air? No. Panchabhuta, out of this which the body is made, do you own it? Do they belong to you? The one way of ownership is I own the materials. I don't own the materials also. I feel a connection with the body, that I can control the body. So I'm a conscious being, but I have some control. I can lift the hand, I can speak. And so does the body listen to you? Yes, in that sense, it is my body. But no, the body hardly listens to you. We have very little control over the body. Only a few things on the surface we seem to control, and that also seem to control. Notice, even a simple thing like raising the hand. I raise the hand now. One simple stroke somewhere, even if I want to raise the hand, no. How much of physiotherapy, how much good luck and blessings it will require to get little bit of control back into the hand. So even the raising of the hand a little bit, so many processes are happening outside our control here, enabling us to think, I raise my hand. Not even that. You go even deeper, the thought, let me raise my right hand. Where did that thought come from? That thought seems to have come and taken over, and then I execute it. But have I control at any level, at any point? I don't have total control. I seem to have a modicum of free will. The body doesn't listen to me. And if you say, I want to control. This is my body. I want to control everything. The body says, thank God it doesn't take, we don't have control. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Prakrityeva karmani kriyamanani sarvasha vyapashyati tathatmanam akartaram sapashyati. Nature is doing everything. All activity in this universe is being done by nature. The one who realizes this sees that the self does not do anything. Akarta. But we don't realize it. We think, I am doing quite a bit here. If nature says, all right, I will not drive your body, you drive, you take the wheel now. So many processes are going on at the organic level, at the tissue level, at the cellular level, only a part of which the most cutting edge medical technology is beginning to understand a little bit. If I'm supposed to execute all of that, then disaster. I will not last 1 minute also. You have to call 911. What happened? He took charge of the body. Immediate collapse. Nature is doing everything. Body does not listen to us. So it seems very clear. I am the body, this is my body. And we look a little deeper, it doesn't seem clear at all. So when you say I'm not the body, it means that it's not even mine. Naham deho nate na naham deho nate deho karta bhokta nava bhavan chidruposi sada sakshi nirapeksha sukham chara. Ashtavakra sings. You are neither the body, natvam deha nate deha. You are not the body. The body is not yours. Answering your question. Therefore, really you are not the doer of actions. Yes, Ramakrishna says we will realize, after a lot of spiritual practice, we realize God alone, or nature, is the doer. I am not the doer. Apparently, it seems I am the doer of actions. Even the experiencer of pleasure and pain, he says, Bhokta nava bhavan. You're not even the experience. I have suffered so much in life. No, you haven't. It's like a lot of problems are going on. The light says, oh, I'm suffering so much. Light is revealing all the problems. Light is not involved in any of the problems. You are consciousness. You reveal all the movies, the drama happening in the life. But you as consciousness have not suffered. Oh, you don't know. Heart attack. I was in ICU. Consciousness revealed the body which had a heart attack, which was in ICU. Consciousness doesn't even have a heart. Why will it have a heart attack? So, na bhokta. Then what am I? If I'm not the body, if I'm not the doer, then what am I? Am I useless? Nothing. Chidruposi. You are of the nature of consciousness. You are awareness. What do I do? You don't do anything, but your very nature is sada sakshi. Choicelessly you reveal. You are the illuminer of everything that happens in life, whatever happens. Nirapeksha. You are not dependent on anything. And then, having known all this, you, the consciousness, with that mind, with that personality, with that body, sukham chara, live happily. That is Ashtavakra's answer. So we'll end here. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.